Hi everyone, and welcome to Jane Talks Murder, where I'll be talking about and reviewing an episode of Poirot, Murder, She Wrote, Diagnosis Murder, or Jonathan Creek. Today, I'm looking at Jonathan Creek, the Judas Tree, or as I like to call it, that time the plot went out the window. But before we begin, due to some personal stuff and an almost unmanageable workload outside of the channels, I'm going to need to take a little bit of a break, so Murder Mystery Monday will be returning in March. And if you would like to help keep the channel afloat in the algorithm, then please go back and watch some old episodes. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, let's get into it. We begin the episode in a storm. Creepy, but these two are driving with the roof down and arguing and littering, establishing the year. Although this CD player looks more modern than that. They pull over to look at the map when this girl spots a nearby house which vanishes moments later, so goes to investigate. Ooh! Oh god, it's Frank Geiger back from the dead! She hits him with a shoe, and into the credits we go. Ooh, a fluffy kitty cat! We travel inside this creepy green house where a woman is having a nightmare. Oh, it's Emily from the beginning, and she spies on this couple. And the next day, Mrs. Gantry explains her duties, but she's a clumsy donut, which Harriet doesn't appreciate.
Do me a favour and smell that mango.
Excuse me? She complains to Mrs. Gantry about Emily's clothes, so she goes to Emily to tell her to dress more appropriately, and tells her the story about a previous owner, Thaddeus, lusting after the Egyptian housekeeper, and they had an affair until he got bored of her, so she cursed him to die at a specific time, but he didn't believe her. Then he died, but for no discernible reason, with no clues or poisons in his system or injuries. And oh, by the way, this is where she slept. Have fun! Adam's floating head is complaining about his bad press when Joey shows up in time to volunteer to replace Adam's assistant who just quit. He's being weird, so thankfully this is Adam's last appearance. While waiting for a bus, Jonathan spies Emily. Oh, that was fast. But Emily explains her backstory about her disappearing house experience, which gives her nightmares. And she tries to tell him about Thaddeus, but Jonathan goes nuts at her for using him. Well, that went well. At work, Emily spies on Harriet rifling through a desk before receiving a letter from Salima saying she'll be dead in 3 days, which she says is in Emily's handwriting, but Emily's confused. She's sent to check on the neighbor's house, which is super spooky, so she rings Joey to tell her she saw Salima's ghost in the woodshed and pilfers what Harriet was looking for in the desk, a treasure map. Joey takes the map and goes looking for the treasure, which leads her to a tree, but Harriet spooks her, so she runs to hide and watches her do something to the tree but can't work out what. She tells Jonathan, who realizes that Joey's Emily is the one he yelled at, and she finds a painting of herself before the lights go out, so Hugo busts in and helps her out, which Mrs. Gantry glares at, and when Harriet comes in, the picture is back to normal, and she finds a letter in Emily's belongings that warns her to beware of ISIS. Joey and Jonathan show up and tell Emily she's going to be okay, before Hugo is excited by Jonathan's presence and explains that this was his childhood home and he moved back in when he met Harriet. Hugo whips out a book that Salima wrote, but Joey is more interested in the death threats and Jonathan in this pipe that came from the attic and has been recently moved. Father Roderick comes to visit while Jonathan and Joey investigate under the woodshed, only for Joey to immediately trap them in.
Are you going to say this is all my fault?
Yes!
They debunk the ghost theory with a sheet of glass while Mrs. Gantry complains she's being replaced as Hugo approaches, while Jonathan reads in Salima's book that she screamed before Thaddeus died because she saw death approach him.
It's clearly bollocks.
The book is dedicated to HCN, which lines up with their wife's initials, and Jonathan discovers Joey has been sat on bags of cat litter, but he's only excited because he needs to pee. Having relieved himself, Jonathan realizes what ISIS means.
Harriet Dore has only got a minute left to live.
Because as Mrs. Gantry prepares the tea, the microwave clock changes to 15:15. Harriet gets pushed out of the window and onto a spiked fence, so Hugo rushes up and carries her to a nearby chair, where she accuses Emily of attacking her, and even though she claims she just arrived, Harriet has a piece of her dress, and then dies. Everybody scramble! Harriet's body is taken away, so Emily makes a break for it, hiding at the neighbor's house, where she hears spooky noises and goes to investigate, only to find a sink full of blood. Don't do a psycho, don't do a psycho, don't do a psycho. Oh, good! But she is apprehended by the police, so she asks Jonathan for help. He explains the disappearing house as a film set which blew over in the wind and hit the guy in the grass who crawled for help. Okay, time for a funeral where Mrs. Gantry announces that Harriet was pregnant when she died. They talk to the vicar who tells them he noticed the pipe was missing after Harriet's death, and Hugo went to confessional, but Roderick fell asleep, so isn't sure what he said. The court case is underway, which doesn't go well for Emily, while Joey and Jonathan visit the neighbour's house, where Jonathan proves someone could have easily slipped out of the bathroom. And while poking around, they hear a noise as Hugo marches in but doesn't stay. Jonathan discovers the missing pipe and realises some things and rushes to the courthouse where he talks about the old Thaddeus case, where the scream was what killed him, because hydrogen cyanide, also known as HCN, was sealed inside his pocket watch, which shattered when Salima screamed, killing him. But she got the idea from the pipe, actually a whistle, which Hugo used to shatter Emily's light bulb and change the picture back in the dark. The notes were planted, and the ghost a trick with glass to drive Emily crazy, which the prosecutor doesn't buy. So Jonathan explains, due to the light, Harriet couldn't see her killer.
Harriet Dore saw exactly what she expected to see.
But it doesn't matter because the verdict is guilty and Emily goes down. Jonathan still can't make sense of it all, so they go back to the house where he finds a spoon, making him realise he's been thinking of the wrong table. But no time for that. Hugo and his comically oversized needle head for the tree, where Jonathan and Joey are caught by a very alive Harriet. Hugo explains his additional needs brother was carjacked by Emily and her friend, but Kim took it too far and left him for dead, where he was able to tell Hugo what happened before he died. But the girls got away with it. Hugo moved away, but when he met Harriet, she convinced him to seek revenge. So she abducted Kim to use as the body drop and ran outside and hid behind the gate, where she got ready and swapped places with Kim to accuse Emily. And when they left, they switched back before Harriet used the neighbour's bathroom to clean up afterwards. Hugo wonders what now, and the pair realise they've been set up, turns out by Mrs. Gantry, who knew about the crime because she was in the church when Hugo confessed. But Emily is still in prison and Hugo is free. Okay, that was an interesting one. I cut out the whole Adam plotline because it was probably the most problematic out of all of Adam's plot lines. Man, some elements of the show really don't hold up at all. So at least we've saved ourselves some time. The main plot was kinda bonkers. The lead-up was intriguing and even tense and spooky in some places, but the solution was off the wall and full of plot holes. Hugo got over his brother's death and the following trial with enough time, but his new wife convinced him to seek out and murder one person while framing another, and then inevitably having to leave his home to cover up the fact that his apparently murdered wife is not in fact murdered. Emily apparently can't remember carjacking someone who her friend then killed, or the court case that followed, but she remembered a disappearing house and a guy grabbing her on the same day, so how does that work? I know they said no one really knew Harriet, but seriously, that was not her body that was taken to the morgue. So how did no one notice that it was a completely different person, one that was also pregnant, which got glossed over rather quickly? How were they able to create a Salima ghost? I mean, sure, they did a reflection off glass, but using what? Another person wouldn't look exactly like her, and video footage, if there was any from back then, would have created a background too. Same with the photo. How did Salima manage to get hold of hydrogen cyanide, put it inside Thaddeus's watch, and scream at the right frequency to shatter it? How did Harriet manage to get hold of some of Emily's dress? She would have either had to have torn it off while she was wearing it, or know which dress she was going to wear that day, and tear it off in advance. There is so much that doesn't hold up. But let's look at the positive aspects. Usually in murder mysteries, the husband and wife are against one another. One's the victim, one's the killer, so it's refreshing to see them be on the same side for a change. The ISIS time clue was a very cool reveal, and I liked that it turned out to be Mrs. Gantry that was behind the setup at the end, not Jonathan, even if they still got away with it. We have 3 victims. Thaddeus Northcott, who was poisoned with hydrogen cyanide in a booby-trapped pocket watch, thanks to our first killer, Salima El Sharad, who wanted revenge for getting dumped. Danny Dore, who was hit over the head and left to die by our second killer, Kim, when her and Emily's carjacking went wrong. And Kim, who was pushed out of a window onto some spikes by our third killer, Harriet Dore, who wanted revenge for Danny's death, and with her accomplice husband, Hugo Dore, managed to successfully frame Emily. So there you have it. That was the Judas tree. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, or come say hi on social media. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit that like button, it really does mean a lot, or consider subscribing if you want to keep investigating with me. Alternatively, feel free to check out my other YouTube channels. Thank you so much for watching, I'll speak to you soon, and keep an eye out for clues.